is 69b at the bottom, defining the different kinds of trees. What's defined as a tree or not? You have to climb with a rope, or if an ox can go by it. Is it strong enough to withhold the yoke of an ox? So we're going to continue the third line, the last word. Bo minei Rav Acha bar Huna Rav Sheshes. So continuing the different phraseology of people that sell things, who instead of specifying and being clear with their statements, they were a little bit vague. And now we have a lot of Gemara to explain what they said. So, Bo minei Rav Acha bar Huna Rav Sheshes. Let's say a guy said, I'm selling you a field, chutz, except for mecharuf ploni, or chutz misadan ploni. Mahu. I'm selling you a field except for the carob tree, or except for the sycamore tree, the cut sycamore tree. So now we know when you sell a field, a carob tree is not included. So here you have a field full of carob trees. And what did you say? I'm selling you a field except for one carob tree. So what did that imply? Oso charav huda lo kani. Maybe this carob tree you don't want, but hashar charuvim kani. But the rest of them, from the fact that you only said except for one, that implied you want the rest of them. Odilma shar charuv nami lo kani. Or maybe since carob trees are so unique and have their own identity, if you excluded one, you excluded the rest of them too. We don't say that goes along with the field. Amrle Lokana. Nope, you've not acquired any carob trees. When you say I'm selling you a field that has 100 carob trees on it, and you exclude one of them, we don't assume that the rest of them come along with the field, because carob trees never come along with the field. They're too unique, they're too important, they have their own identity, that we have not acquired them. So it says the Gemara, Eisvei chutz micharav ploni, chutz misadan ploni, lo kana. There's a brisa that says that when you say chutz micharav ploni, I'll sell you a field except for this carob tree or this sycamore tree, you've not acquired. Cryptic statement, not acquired. Not acquired what? So first the Gemara says, sounds like not acquired. Ma'ilav oso charav, you haven't acquired that carob tree that the brisa was just talking about. However, huda lo kana, but shar charuvim kana. This carob tree you've not acquired, but the rest of the carob trees you have acquired. So that would be a difficulty in what we just said. That on Rav Sheshes, who answered Rav Acha bar Huna, that you haven't acquired anything, the brisa seems to imply that you only have not acquired the one carob tree. Amrle lo afilu shar charuv nami lo kana. Nope. When the brisa said lo kana, it doesn't mean lo kana this tree. It means lo kana at all, and therefore it's not going to be a difficulty. And we're going to bring a proof that when you sell the tree, when you sell a field except for a carob tree, the other carobs are not included. And they're going to have a very similar inverse version of the story with the same proof. The Amri, some say like this. The version of the story is like, sorry, Teda. And here's my proof. The Ilu Amrle, let's say you told somebody, Sadai Mechuralach, my field is sold to you. Chutz misada plonis. You're selling a field, and you say, I'm going to sell you my field, except for that field. So that field of yours, you're not selling. This field of your, well, I'm selling you my field, and I'm not telling you sounds like the other person's field. So, what are you going to say over there? Ahi hudelo kana, but ha achrinisa kani. When he says, I'm selling you my field and not someone else's field, do you interpret that to mean, oh, you want to sell me your field and not someone else's field, but the rest of the world's fields you do want to sell me? So the Gemara says, obviously not, because you don't have a right to sell everyone else's field. When you only sell your field in this example, so then only your field is being sold. We don't assume now, since you said I'm selling you my field and not that field, and not someone else's field, oh, not his field, but everyone else's field you are going to sell. So obviously not. You only mean to sell your own field. So says the Gemara, so that's the same parable as a carob tree. A carob tree has its own identity. So a carob tree in this parable is like the rest of the world's fields. That just because I don't want to sell you this carob tree, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sell you the rest of my carob trees. Carob trees are unique enough that it's like they have their own identity. So if I tell you I'm going to sell you a house, I'll sell you my house. I'm not going to sell you my neighbor's house. Oh, your neighbor's house you won't sell me, but the rest of your street's houses you will sell me? No, I'm just going to sell you my house. And that latter part don't infer more than whatever I said. So too, I'm going to sell you a field and not a carob tree. Oh, but the rest of your carob trees you will sell me? No, the carob tree is too unique. It has its own identity. We don't assume it comes along with your field unless you specify. Ela lokana, achanami lokana. So to buy our carob tree, you also have not acquired it. So basically, if you sell a field and you specifically say, and not this carob tree, so what it means is and not any carob tree, because a carob tree, unless specified, will not be included in the sale. So it's a very similar thing, just a little bit different version. Rav Huna asked Rav Sheshes, "Chutz mi chatzi charuf ploni." I guess you have, I don't know, either maybe it explains it. Either your carob tree is cut in half, or it's whole, but you only want to sell the top half or the bottom half. I assume it's cut in half. That would be more logical. So you want to sell half your carob tree. So I'm selling you my field except for chutz mi chatzi charuf ploni, except for that half of a carob tree. Or chutz. What is that?
We talk about a cut back carob tree.
Cut back carob tree. Sounds like there's two parts.
Heavily pruned.
What is that?
Heavily pruned.
Heavily pruned carob tree. Okay. Chutz mi chatzi ploni, except for the cut sycamore tree. So now mahu. So now how do you deal with this? Shar charuvin vadelo kari. When you only said except for half of a carob tree, you're for sure not including your other 100, non-cut whole carob trees. But what about the part that's left over from this carob tree? Hamasha shayir ba'oso charov kani. Maybe the other half of the carob tree you do want to acquire. So that's the guy said, I'm selling you, the bottom half of my carob tree. So I'm selling you my field except for the bottom half of my carob tree. Or in this case, he's saying I'm selling you except for half of my carob tree. So what's with the other half? Odilma filu masha shayir ba'oso charov nami lo kani. The other half of the carob tree, was that included in your sale, or that's also excluded, just like the part that you explicitly stated, this half of your carob tree is not included? Which one is it? So same as before, Amrle Lokana. Lokani. He says, no, you only excluded what you excluded. We don't, by inference, include any carob tree. It's not even half of a carob tree. Even half of a carob tree, it's too unique, has its own identity, that if you're selling a field and you want to sell things like that, you have to specify. So now, same question as before. The Brisa says, I'm going to sell you something, my field, except for half of a carob, half of a sycamore. So shar charuvin lokani. So the rest of the carobs are not sold. Ma'ilav shar charuvin hu de lokana, but hama sheshayir bosa charav kana. So maybe you can infer that the rest of the carobs are not sold, are definitely excluded, but maybe the other half of the carob tree is also excluded. Nami lokana. Now, why would I say that the other half of the carob tree is also excluded? Teda da afilu amrle sadi machurlach chutz mi chatzi sadi ploni. If I said I'm going to sell you a field, except for half of that field, so you don't say hahu de lokana, but haida kana. So you have a field, and you're going to say, I'm going to sell you this field, but I'm going to sell you, I don't know, so maybe let's say you have a few fields, not necessarily someone else's field. Let's say you have a few fields, and you say, I'm selling you this field, and I'm not selling you half of that field. So my, field A of mine, I'm selling you, but you should know half of field B, I'm not selling you. So how do you understand that? Hahu de lokana b'ha'ida kana. So what are you going to say? Oh, half of field B you're not selling me, but the other part you are selling me? Gemara says, no, you never said that. You said, I'm selling you my field. You never said, I'm selling you the other half of field B. You just happen to say, except for field B. But not every time do we infer something, is it going to be, it's going to be a positive sale. So if you're selling, if you're selling, your house and half of the house and half of my house in the back, except for half my house in the back. So you don't say, oh, But the other half, you do want to sell me? No, I also don't want to say the other house. It's just that's what I specified. So el lokani achanami lokani. So basically, whether you're selling your field except for one carob tree, or you're selling your field except for half of a carob tree, or you're selling a house or a field except for half of the other field, if the rest of the property has own identity, we're not going to infer from your exclusion more than what you said. So whatever you said, we take my field and not half of that field. So what's sold is your field and not half of that field. Your field and not the carob tree. So your field and not the carob tree. But nothing positive is going to be inferred in the sale from things that really don't have their own identity, like from things that have their own identity, like a carob tree or like fields. Okay, so that concludes that. Bo minei Rav Amram me Rav Chista. Okay, this is going to take us through today. This whole idea. Rav Stram points out it really has nothing to do with over here, except for the fact that the first line of our Amud brought in the Dayane Gola, the judges of exile. So since we brought them in and we finish our current discussion, we're going to go on to a non-related discussion, but a very important discussion that's going to have big ramifications. So, Bo Minei Rav Amram Rav Chista. Rav Amram asked Rav Chista. We're going to talk about deposits now. So take our minds off of selling fields and carob trees and go to deposits. Hamafkid Eitzel Chaveru. I deposit something by my friend. I gave Jared a few $100 and we wrote a document. We documented it. Today, I deposited by you $100. You are watching my money. You're a shomer for my money, and you have a shtar. You have a document to prove it. So now it happens. I come and I say, with my shtar, Jared, give back the money. It's been 30 days already. Now thank you for holding on to my money. I'm back from vacation. Please give it back. So what do you say? So you say, Hexartim loch. I returned it to you already. I gave it to you. I don't have it. I returned it to you. So mahu. So now, what's going to be at stake here is the watcher, in this case Jared, is going to have a very good claim, right? He could have claimed I lost it. Sorry, I lost it. An unavoidable accident happened to it, and if you claim that, then you're believed. You say ne'ensu, then you're believed. So when you say you returned it already, you should be believed on what we call a migu. Since if you were lying, you could have lied a much better lie. And if you'd have said that lie, you would have been believed. So even when you say this, that you returned, we should believe you. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, I have a shtar. And if you really returned it to me, you'd have taken my shtar from me and ripped it up. Right? That's what usually happens because you don't want me to the person who was watching doesn't want the guy who deposited to hold on to the shtar because you might just come back in 2 days from now with the document saying, hey, give me the object. So you would have taken the shtar and ripped it up. So on the one hand, you have the fact I'm holding a shtar, which is a great proof that you haven't returned it. On the other hand, we have your word that would have been believed if you would have said it was a tornado hit and I lost your money. I don't know if you say, my son ate it or whatever it was. I don't know if that's, whatever unavoidable accident could have happened. So that's the balance over here. What wins? So you returned it to him. Do we say that since you could have said nensu, you could have said an unavoidable accident happened to him. So therefore, mehemin, if you just go after your word, you look at your word, then that's believable. And therefore, we assume the money was returned. So hashanami mehemin. Even now, when you said hechzartim, so then that's also going to be believed. Oh, Dilma, no. Amar le shtarcha biyadi ma'ibai. Right. This is a famous line that's used whenever you're talking about monetary cases that involve a legal document. Shtarcha biyadi ma'ibai. Your shtar is in my hands. Why? Why is your shtar in my hands? Why, if you returned it, didn't you take back the shtar and rip it up? Oh, the fact that I still have a shtar, that's enough of a proof. Now, there's a concept whenever you have a migu. So if it's in the place of Adam, we say Migo b'makom Adam lo amrinan. If you have two witnesses would come, right, that say that you have not yet returned the object. We saw it in your house this morning 5 minutes ago. Yeah, we came to do a construction work, and we saw a big treasure chest saying, a big stack of bills with Gleizer's name on it. So just because you have a migu, it's not strong enough. That you can't do. So now, how do you view a star? A star is like that strong. So usually a star is a very strong proof. Okay, it is some kind of proof, but it's not two witnesses. So star chabiyadi ma'ibayi. So now what did Rav Chisda say? Amr le mehemin. This is the big statement. Your word is believed even against the star, against legal document. That's how strong this migu is. Yeah, okay. So now, okay, but v'lei malei shtar chabiyadcha ma'ibayi. Okay, but I don't get it. Like, why can't he still say, why do I have your star? And at the end of the day, the guy has a star. So why is that claim not a good claim? So Amarle, well, uletamech, what would happen in the following case? V'chi Amarle nensu, mimati Amarle shtar chabiyadcha ma'ibayi. If the guy would have actually claimed an onus happened, an unavoidable accident happened, could you have said, look, I have your star? No. So too here, you also can't claim that you have a star and that should be strong enough to extract money. So Amrle, turn the page. Okay, but sof ki Amrle nensu lav shvua bayi. The halacha is that when a shomer claims nensu, when a watchman claims that there was an unavoidable accident, he has to alleviate himself of his responsibility only with a shvua. So too here, when the guy says hechzartim, I return it to you, he doesn't fully get off scot-free. He also has to take a shvua. Lav shvua by hachanami, mai neman b'shvua. You're right. When I said the guy's believed, I wasn't talking about not with a shvua. I was talking with a shvua. Because you can't be better than the claim you could have claimed. If I would have claimed that God something happened to it, unavoidable accident happened to it, I would have to alleviate myself with a shvua. So too, when I claim I returned it, I will also have to take a shvua in that case. Okay. So now we're going to basically say that this machlokas, Rav Chisda and Rav Amram, it sounds like a similar machlokas to the following case of an iska. So important for this case is a little bit of the background. So what used to happen was you wanted to invest in a business deal. So we'll have Reuven and Shimon. Reuven is the big funder. He's the big gvir. He's got the money in town. So they want to invest in something. Want some more space chairs? Oh, I'm not so tall, but yeah. Imagine it's a fire and just fit into small spaces. Yeah. So okay, so what happened? Reuven decides, Shimon convinces Reuven to invest in a great business deal. So Reuven gives Shimon $100,000, right? And basically he says, Shimon, take this money, invest in it. Let's make a big profit. Let's make it big in life. So now what happened was so now Shimon died. And basically Reuven wants his money back from the Yisomim, from the orphans. So the Rabbanan wanted to encourage these kinds of deals. So what they said like this. Really, the person who gave the money, so the second guy, it's not his money, right? It's not Shimon's money. So he doesn't really suffer any loss. If he makes something great, and if not, so he loses nothing, he only gains. But the Rabbanan said that no. Really, when you give money, Reuven gives money to Shimon. So they're each going to take responsibility for it. You're going to view half the money. So in our case, that's $100,000. Half the money is going to be a loan to Shimon. If it's a loan, then Shimon has to return half that money, $50,000. Then no matter what happens, if he loses out, Mrs. Parent, good morning, Mrs. Parent. If he loses out $50,000, he has to return it somehow. So half the money is viewed as a loan to Shimon, which is a novelty because it's not his money. He never loaned it. The guy gave it to him and he's going to invest it. And he said, you can keep the profit. So So half the money is going to be considered a loan, and the other half is going to be considered a deposit. And so if it's a deposit, so then he doesn't suffer the loss of a deposit. The deposit's it's up to Reuven. Reuven entrusted him with the money. So once again, Reuven gives Shimon $100,000, and he says, let's go invest it. However, they're each going to have responsibility for. Shimon, half of that money, Shimon has to return to Reuven no matter what. But the other half of the money is considered a pikadon. It's just a deposit, and therefore Shimon's not responsible to return that amount to Reuven. So now what happened? Shimon died, and we go to the orphans, and we want to get our money back. Yeah, just to one more point. Originally, when the way this worked before, the Rabbanan made this enactment, is when Reuben gave Shimon $100,000 to invest, the only money Shimon would get out of it is the money he had for working. So you work 50 hours on this investment and you invested our money, I'll pay you for the 50 hours of work you did, right? But you're not gaining. If we make it big, $5 million, Reuven, the guy with the capital, he'll get most of the money, and he'll pay off Shimon, a few $1,000s for his time. So that's not going to encourage people to take these kinds of investments. So what they said was, really, Shimon's going to get much more money. He's gonna any money he makes off the loan that he gets. So now you get $100,000, $50,000 is like a loan to you. Whatever money you make off of that, you get to keep. However, whatever money you lose, you have to make sure that you return the original $50,000 back to Reuven. So now what happens? Shimon died, and Reuven goes to the orphans. So now, Lema, this machlokas we just mentioned between Rav Chisda and Rav Huna, Rav Amram, is the same machlokas as the following. We're on 70b on the second line. Lema beplukta the honey tanai. It's the same machlokas as the following Tanaim. The Tanya. Let's see. Shtarkis hayotze al yisomim. Someone pulls out a shtar and said, "Listen, I gave your father, this big capital. We invested a lot of money, so $50,000 now was considered a loan, and that I want back." So what's the halacha? Kayane gola amri nishpa v'gova kula. He can make a shvua, and he can collect everything. Okay. V'dayani eretz Yisrael amri nishpa v'gova mechza. You can make a shvua and only collect half, because the other half that was the other half you cannot collect. One second. Right, so basically we have a machlokas, the half that was viewed as a pikadon, as a deposit, can you make a shvua and collect that money or not? So that's the same machlokas that we have. When you have a deposit like our case, can you just go make a shvua and collect the money? Or no, the fact that the guy has a shtar, that's going to be too strong. Yeah. So let's see. B'dekuli alma islu de nahardai. Everyone agrees here, like the nahardai. I mean, nahardai, hi iska. This kind of iska, this kind of business deal, we view it as palga milva upalga pikadon. So when you give money to someone to invest, so let's say $100,000, half is viewed as a loan and half is viewed as a deposit. So now, ma'ilav b'haka mifligi demar savar matzi amrle shtarcha b'yadcha ma'ibai umar savar lo. So what's going to happen over here? They come to the orphans and they have a shtar, and the shtar says that you owe us the money that we gave to you as 1 second. Right, the half the money that's viewed as a deposit, So what would have happened if the father was alive? If the father was alive, he could have said, I'm sorry, Nensu, an unavoidable accident happened to the money. So therefore, for the kids, we'll say the same thing, Nensu, and therefore you cannot collect half of the deposit. Because if the father was alive, the father would have claimed that. So the general rule is, whatever the father would have claimed if he was alive, the Bezdin will claim for the Yisomim. So they'll claim Nensu, and therefore you cannot collect. However, yeah. So now, this machlokas, can you collect this half, which is a deposit or not, is very similar to what we just said before. When you have a deposit, right? So usually if you claim Nensu, an unavoidable accident happened to him, then you're believed. The problem is there's a shtar here. There's a document saying, that you owe me money. And there's always a question, why are you holding on to the document? So maybe that's the same machlokas. Some agree to Rav Chisda, and the others don't agree to Rav Chisda. Right? The ones that agree that you can make a shvua and take the whole thing. So the Dayani Gola, the judges of the exile, they say that you can take a shvua and take the whole thing. So then, they don't agree with Rav Chisda, but Nishma. 1 second. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Correct. If you take the whole thing, then you don't hold the Rav Chisda. But if you only get only half of the loan you get, but not half of the deposit, because the Yisomim are believed, so then that would agree with Rav Chisda. So says the Gemara, not so fast. Yeah, just to speak at one point. So once again, half the money is a loan and half the money is considered a deposit. So half the money that's a deposit, that's our conversation. Are you believed on a deposit when there's a document coming against you? What about half money which is a loan? Half the money that's a loan. What happened? That automatically they collect the money. Why? Because 1 second. When it comes to a loan, so then you can't say, I gave back the money already in the face of a shtar. If the guy knows you owe him money, then if the father was here and claimed, oh yeah, I paid you back already, that wouldn't fly. That wouldn't fly in the face of a document. But if he says, I returned it to you already by a deposit, then that would be a good claim by the father. So it's going to spill over to the children. Because what do you want the father to say? I lent you money and you have witnesses that prove it. And the father's like, yeah, but an unavoidable accident happened. That's great. So you still owe me money, right? You can't get out of that. So if you loan somebody money and you say, okay, you can pay me back now. So he'll just say, and he says, a tornado hit and it blew away your $1,000 you lent me. So you still owe the guy money. But if you deposit something, so you're a shomer, you're a watchman. Now, a watchman, if an unavoidable accident happens, you're not responsible. So a loan, if these orphans' father was alive, they would still owe the money for the loan. So even now that he's not alive, half that money has to be given back to Reuven, the original investor. The half that's a pikadon, the half that's a deposit, so that's our machlokas. If you have a deposit in the face of a shtar, what do? So says the Gemara, that's a machlokas. Do you agree to Rav Chisda or not? Rav Chisda said, even though there's a document saying you owe money, and logically, if you would have paid back the money, you should have taken the document and ripped it up. So that's enough. Maybe that would be enough to get the money back. We say no, the person's believed. So to here, say machlokas. Says the Gemara, no. Lo, the kuli alma islu de Rav Chisda. No. Everyone agrees to Rav Chisda that when it comes to a deposit, you are believed to say that you returned the money because you could have said, I lost the money. And if you would have said, I lost the money, then you would have been, not I lost the money, sorry. That's negligence. You would have, if you could have said an unavoidable accident happened to the money, you would have been believed. So everyone agrees to that. So what are they arguing about over here? The hacha b'haka mifligi. Demar savar im isa depare meimer hava amar. Umar savar eimer malach hamavis uda anseh. It's a totally different machlokas over here between the judges of Eretz Yisrael and the judges of exile. What's that machlokas? So one says if the father would have paid back, then he would have told his kids about this. He has a big business deal over here, so he would have told his kids that he paid back before he died. The fact that he didn't tell them sounds like that really helps out that the guy that has the shtar. Sounds like he really didn't pay back, because this is something which you usually tell your kids about before death, about this big business venture that you went on, and he didn't do that. And the other opinion says it could be malach hamavis with anseh. On the deathbed, the malach hamavis grabbed him, literally, meaning to say that just because the guy in his deathbed doesn't say this, that's not a proof that really he didn't return the money. It means he was distracted with other things on his deathbed, such as death, things like that. So that's their machlokas. There's not a big machlokas about are you believed against the document or not. It's a whole separate machlokas. How strong is this claim that before you died you should have told your children or not? Is that strong enough or not strong enough? Okay. Shalach Rav Huna bar Oven. Rav Huna, the son of Oven, sent the following case. Hamafkir ezel chaver b'shtar. You deposit money by your friend with a document. And you come now and you say, time for my Rolex watch to be given back to me. V'amar hexarti lach. He said, I gave back to you already. So Naaman, he's believed. That's one. V'shtar kis hayotze ala yisomin nishba v'gova kula. And if you ever have a document that says that Ruvain invested money with Shimon to go make a lot more money, and now Shimon died, the way you view that investment is half of it is a loan and half of it is a deposit, and now Shimon died and Ruvain goes to the Yisomim. So halacha is nishba v'gova kulo. You can make a shvua that you never got paid back. V'gova kulo, even the half that's viewed as a deposit, you can collect the whole thing. So we have two statements. One is you can be believed to say, I returned the object in the face of a document. And the second statement was you are not believed to say on against a document that you have returned the money, because they can just collect all the money from you, even the half that's viewed as a deposit. Says the Gemara, this makes no sense. Tarti, I don't understand. Make up your mind. Either you're believed to say you return the money by a deposit, or you're not believed to say that you return the money. In this case, we have a contradiction. The first case says you're believed, Naaman. The second case, our case of this big the big investor, the halacha should have been you only believe like we had earlier on mechza, on the half that's a loan, but the half that's viewed as a deposit, you should not be believed on. So that the Gemara says tarti. That's a contradiction. That can't be. So it says shiny hasam the misa depare meimer habe amar. Says no, it's not a contradiction. When it comes to a regular deposit, so there I agree that you are believed even in the face of a legal document. You're believed. But this opinion holds that in the face of in the case of the father who died, so he holds that he should have told his kids about it, and the fact that he didn't supports the original investor, and therefore he gets his money back. So the Gemara just brought this to show that the case of this of investing money with somebody, the case of the Iska, they're arguing not about Rav Chisda, our case of Rav Chisda, rather it's a whole separate machlokas about how strong is this idea that a father should have told his children before he died about his business dealings. So now we brought a story where we see that someone actually went with that logic and held like that. Okay, Rava Amar Hilchasa. So what's the halacha? After all the dust settles and money's deposited, and now somebody wants the money back, and the guy says, "I already gave it back to you." When is he believed and when is he not believed? So Rava Amar Hilchasa Nishba the Gova Mechza. So the case of our Iska, our business dealing, Ruvain gave money to Shimon, $100,000, $50,000 we view as a loan, $50,000 we view as a deposit. Shimon dies, Reuven goes to the children and says, I want the half that's a deposit returned to me. And the orphans, they say, our father already returned it to you. What's the halacha? So they are believed on the half of the money, which is a deposit. And therefore, Reuven can take a shvua and that he never got back the loan and then collect the loan. So Amar Mar Zutra, Hilchasa Kidayane Gola. Mar Zutra says the halacha is like the Dayane Gola. The Dayane Gola said on the fourth line above, Nishma V'Gova Kula. They said, no, even the half that's viewed as a deposit, the original investor, Reuven, can make a shvua that he never got that money. Not only the money which is viewed as a loan, but he also didn't receive the money that's viewed as a deposit. He can make a shvua that he never received it, and therefore, and then he could collect all the money. So Rava says half, and Mar Zutra says you can collect everything. So Amalei Ravina Mar Zutra, you Mar Zutra who hold of the Danegola, so Ha'amar Rava Nishpa V'Gova Mechza. He says, I don't understand, but Rava said you make a shvua and you collect half. He said, yeah, Amar Lei Anan Di Dayane Gola. So he says, yeah, I hold like the Dayane Gola. I hold like, and they say that you can collect everything. So Rava now, who's an Amora, is now going to be against Tanayim. Usually an Amora comes later. So unless you're a specific few of them, you're not allowed to argue on the earlier Tanayim. So now, if the halacha is like the Dayane Gola, we don't want Rava to go against the halacha. So we say, yeah, Ibcha Masnisanlah. Really, really flip it. Flip it and really. Yeah, Steve, what does it say? Flip it which way? Sorry. The Rashbam says, Dayane Gola Amri Nishma V'Gova Mechza. Meaning that which we have earlier in the Brisa, that the Dayane Gola, the judges of exile, so they're the ones that say that you can collect everything, really flip the opinions. And they say you can only collect half, and then that is in line with Rava, that says you can only collect half. So after all the dust settles, money that's invested is viewed half as a loan and half as a deposit for the goal of encouraging people to make these kinds of loans so society could run. So we need people to be able to loan money to people. And that half of the money, which is viewed as a loan, you have to return. There's no option. You can never claim, well, an unavoidable accident happened to the money that you loaned to me. Well, I loaned it to you, so you have to give it back. However, half the money that was viewed as a deposit, so that if you would have claimed an unavoidable accident happened, so then you would have been believed. So too, when you claim now, I returned it to you, since if you were lying, you could have lied better, made a better lie. We see that for sure you're telling the truth. Therefore, really, you should be believed. There's a guy holding a shtar, and if you really paid back, you should have taken the shtar and ripped it up. Okay, but we say that's not strong enough of a claim against the other guy's claim that he returned the money. So after all the dust settles, we really agree. It sounds like with Rav Chisda, and we agree that that the guy is believed, and we agree that by the case of this business investor, that half the money which is viewed as a picadon, as a deposit, so that the orphans could claim or reclaim for them that their father returned the money. A good chodesh, and we'll continue tomorrow.